Susan Jane Rome, welcoming you actually to my home. This gym's in my home in New York City. So I want to come back to grounding and giving you some solid, practical help to help you align mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Because when we're aligned 360, we create consciously the life that we're longing for. We close the gap between where we are and where we long to be. So I could start mentally, emotionally, or spiritually because they're all equally important. But I want to start physically because I feel like there's just been so much woo-woo and out there and ungrounded, untested information being spewed out. What I mean by that is this. We can take in information. We can Google anything. We can even have knowledge about certain things. But until we embody what we've learned intellectually, we don't know it. And maybe that will help you understand why you can be like, okay, I know I should do X, Y, and Z, but I don't do it. Why? Because you don't really know it. And I'm not saying this to bust you. I'm saying this so that you give yourself a break. Because if you're anything like me, I come from being extremely hard on myself and being like, okay, well, you should, exercise, eat like this, do these things. Why aren't you doing them? What's wrong with you? That was my number one. Anytime I tuned into my head, that's what I said. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I just say that all the time to myself, which is such a disempowering question. See, our brain's like a GPS. So if we ask it what's wrong with us, you know what it's going to tell us? It's going to tell us what's wrong with us. And so we get stuck in that loop. I had to learn how to interrupt myself. I had to learn how to work with myself. I have a super active brain. I'm not one in love with labels and whatever, but I was diagnosed with ADHD, so I have a super active brain. Most creative people do. And I had to learn how to not be pulled around by it. Because here's the thing. We have a thought. And that thought, if the thought is, what's wrong with me, creates a feeling. That feeling supports a particular behavior. So if I say to myself, what's wrong with me, and I kind of feel like, God, I'm hopeless, I'm probably maybe just gonna collapse a little and not do very much. And because I collapse a little and I don't do very much, I don't get very much result. And so that will give birth to the thought, what's wrong with you? You don't do very much. Let me know if you get. What I'm painting is a picture for you of a negative feedback loop. We get stuck in it. We've got to shift perspective. And if you're anything like me, I needed other people's perspectives because I only had one way of seeing myself in the world, and I didn't see myself with rose-colored glasses. Probably they were pretty dark tinted, blackish. I'm smiling now, and I'm smiling now because there's a part of me that's so grateful and so relieved that's not where I am. Because for a long time, I didn't think I'd get out of that. And when I was in the midst of that, using whatever to numb out my pain, feeling truthfully, genuinely, I felt like, when God made me, God must have just been distracted or not paying attention, but there was just something that wasn't put together right. I always felt like that. I think that tends to happen with highly sensitive people. I think that is by design too. I think that we have a particular path and a particular purpose at this time in this highly variable climate that we find ourselves in. And I think that's to raise consciousness. So struggling, going through shit, and I don't like to call it shit, but that's just my way of trying to, not take a long time saying trauma or abuse or neglect or abandonment or any of those things that we all experienced as kids. Most of my people went through a lot, which birthed in them an exquisite sensitivity and an empathy. But it also means we can get caught up in our head. So I could just keep talking, which is why I want to bring you into my world where we get grounded and we get in the body. Because the body knows the truth. Please come back. I'm going to be dealing with all these things on this channel. All aspects, 360 degrees of well-being. Because that's what it takes to live an extraordinary life. Extraordinary. It's just that extra that I'm going to be delivering to you in a practical way so that you can apply it in your life. I'll see you again. I love you.